Hello everyone, and welcome back to Slippery Jack Reviews It, the show where I review all kinds of cool music, and today I'm going to be talking about the second album by Molchat Doma, Etazhi. So, I'm sorry for being really bad at uploading, it's just that, you'd think that I would be better at uploading right now since I've got absolutely nothing to do, but the pandemic has just, taken away all my motivation, and yeah, it's pretty hard for me to just motivate myself to go and make a video, even though I would usually love doing it. But I'm finally back. This time I'm going to try and get videos out a little more consistently. School has just started up, so it's going to be tricky, but I will see what I can do. But anyways, in case you haven't seen my last video of S. Krishna Sheikh Damav, their debut album, you would know who they are, but if you haven't, Molchat Doma is a post-punk band from Belarus, and their music is heavily influenced by Joy Division and the post-punk and goth music that was happening in the 1980s. This album is what got Molchat Doma so famous, and I wouldn't be surprised if you skip my other video because this is the album that has all the hype behind it. The point is, this seems to be most people's preference. But we're not here to talk about their opinions, we're here to talk about my opinion. Okay, yeah, this is the better album. Way better than their debut. In fact, I loved every song on here. There were some songs on their last album that I didn't really care for so much, but there wasn't a single bad track on this album. I enjoyed pretty much everything. The production here is way better. It's not the greatest production of all time. They still need to have rawness to some degree so they can get their point across, but it's much cleaner, so it's this album seems to have a lot more of an emphasis on atmosphere, and that's probably why they decided to clean up the production out of that, or maybe they got better at producing, I don't know, but the atmosphere, the production really enhances the atmosphere. Igor's vocals sound way better on here than they did on S. Krishna Sheikh Damav, but there is one thing that I think that album does better, and that is sounding like an album. I feel S. Krishna Sheikh Damav did sound like every track was in the right place. The beginning sounded like the beginning, the end sounded like the end. It was pretty much a perfect order. This album, the order it doesn't really have the best order in the world. I can't see how I would change it, but I feel these tracks don't really fit together as well. In fact, that was my biggest issue with the album when I first heard it, was that the order just didn't work, didn't flow. It felt disjointed to me. Nowadays, it's not disjointed at all. I think the order is just fine. Doesn't bother me. In fact, it kind of gives each of the tracks more of a chance to shine. You know what I mean? Each of the tracks stick out more on here, whereas some of them kind of flowed together on S. Krishna Sheikh Damav because they kind of all sounded, they didn't all sound the same. There was definitely a uniqueness, but nothing really stood out that much except for a few of them. This album, all of them stand out, and I'm able to recognize each of them and be oh yeah, this track. Because the names are a little hard, I don't always think of the names, but I'm getting there. I'll be there someday. And the feel of this album is also quite different. of course, like, they're going to still have, like, that bleakness, that doomer kind of feeling, the darkness. It's all still there, but it's done differently. It sounds more like darkness as in, like, it's nighttime, almost, rather than, like, a darkness as in, like, dread and depression. Like, that's not really here as much. It's still here. It still definitely has a degree of being a little depressing, but it's not like, yeah, you know what I mean, right? And it's, like, the way I've always felt about this album is, like, you're driving through this city in, like, the 1960s, and it's, it's all gloomy, things are kind of falling apart, not the best looking place, and you're just visiting, like, various places. But, like, of course the album has nothing to do with that. That's just kind of how I've come to feel about the album. Now on to individual tracks. The album starts out with the bouncy Na Dene, which has this booming bass line, and once again, production sounds really awesome on this one. Lots of great atmospheric textures and a nice chill groove, and the vocals sound fantastic. Great stuff, to be sure. And however, the album really kicks it into gear with Tanцевать. Oh my goodness, this song is awesome. It has this great driving beat, and it's got, like, a much darker sounding atmosphere. It's a good example of, like, the doomer thing that Molchat Doma is usually categorized under. And if this album, like I said, was a trip through an old gloomy city, this would be like the soundtrack to being chased in that city by, like, someone trying to hurt you. It's a very hectic sounding track, and you're like sounds like you're really dreading something. But once again, fantastic stuff. Feel me on, like, the first two tracks. This one took some listening for me to really understand. But, like, now I love it. It's very different sounding track to, like, your typical Molchat Doma, as well as, like, the other songs in the Russian post-punk scene. But it still keeps that dark atmosphere going while sounding like a little more lighthearted, even though I don't know what the lyrics are about on this one, but it has a little more of a lighthearted and fun sound than the last two did. And yeah, it just has this really nice tempo. It's chill, but it's also groovy. You can still, like, bang your head to it and tap your feet, but it's not like, it's good stuff. And there's this one part near where, like, the guitars start making, like, these cool atmospheric melodies, and I thought that was really awesome. You know me, I love my atmosphere. Volny is one of the darkest moments on the entire album, and yeah, lots of atmospherics going, but lots of emotion in this one. There's, like, this brooding darkness and this aching sadness to it, and this is definitely one of their most famous tracks. This is one that I have seen appear in like, some people's posts before on Instagram, and that popularity is well deserved. Tosca has a very satisfying bass line and sounds much happier than the last songs we have heard, despite its dark lyrical nature. It's not a track that really comes to mind when someone mentions Molchat Doma, but it is very enjoyable one. I love, like, those bright melodies, and it's got a good drive to it. Progrnoz has this weird sounding bass line. Like, for a long time, this one was kind of off-putting to me. And I'm sure, like, it will be to some people when they first put this one on, but, like, I don't know. I've come to absolutely love it. That bass line is just, like, it's so fun to me. Like, as soon as it comes on, like, I'm like, alright, I know I'm in for some fun right now. It's just like a straight dance track. It was my least favorite at one point, but I can't tell you why that was. It's fantastic. And then there is the notorious Судно. Well, actually, it's Судно. I know I said Судно on the last video, but yeah, it's Судно. And as we all know, this track slaps. It's by far the most famous Molchat Doma song. One time on Spotify, it actually reached number 2 worldwide. Not to mention all the memes that have like appeared on the internet with this song. You know what I'm talking about, right? Even before this song became a meme, I loved it. It's got lots of energy and like the, you know, those beats at the beginning, like the. You like, that's just like getting you ready for the ride you're about to go on. And yeah, just everything about this track is awesome. Great synth textures and melodies, and a great drive. It just feels like a very exhilarating ride. And despite only being 2 minutes, even though like it doesn't really feel like it, like it's too short or too long, even though it's so good that I wish it would last a little longer. And yeah, really awesome track. I know like I should hate this one because of like all the memes, but you know, how can you hate this thing? This is so good. And now there is one problem. Because Судно was such a high, there's really nowhere to go now but down. And the next track, Коммерсанты, was no exception. This track feels like it should do so much more, but it just doesn't. I feel like this is just a rehash of what we have heard before on this album. It's just like more of their Doomer Wave stuff, with that darkness to it, but like it's upbeat and danceable. We've heard that throughout the album. It's almost like they're running out of ideas, so they're just gonna keep doing the same thing again. But even then, like, this song sounds like it has a lot of potential. It sounds like something I would love, but it just doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't have an impact. It's not really the most memorable song on the album. It never comes to mind. It's just kind of there. But it's not a bad track or anything. Like, I never skip it, and I wouldn't want it removed. Well, if there was like a better, more interesting track that you could put on here in its place, yeah, I guess that would be cool with it being removed. But yeah, it's still got lots of potential, and I can see a lot of people really enjoying this one. So don't take my word on it. You might like it. However, Molchat Doma saves this album with Kletka. It's slow but highly impactful. And you can really feel that emotion and this impending doom. And when those guitars come in, and they're just like at the end, when the guitars are like a lot more prevalent, it sounds fantastic. Of course, if you're making a Doomer album, you're going to want it to end on a super dark and bleak note, and Kletka is just that. Once again, I don't think that they could have ended this album better than this. And overall, Etazhi is fantastic. I like every track. The atmosphere and the textures are executed perfectly, and besides Kommersanti, There's really nothing I dislike about this album. It's certainly worth your time and a perfect soundtrack to this weird time that we're going through right now, that is the coronavirus influenza. I recommend you all give it a listen. I'm feeling an overall, let's go with an 86 out of 100. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe for more entertainment. And click that notification bell so you will know when I upload something. And I will see you next time.